Welcome everyone to ScaleUpMastery.com, the place for business owners and managers seeking to sustain the scalability of their businesses through operations excellence. Today, our topic is the secret sauce of successful restaurant menu engineering. To start, perhaps let me define what menu engineering is. Menu engineering is a strategic approach used by restaurants and food service establishments to optimize their menu offerings for profitability and popularity. More importantly, we need to recognize what menu engineering is not. It is not simply about creating a menu with appealing descriptions or aesthetically pleasing designs. It goes beyond the surface level and involves a strategic analysis of the menu's performance, including factors such as profitability, popularity, and contribution to overall business goals. Today, we have the honor of inviting onto our discussion panel a group of super experienced experts in the F&B industry. So before I hijack this entire session, allow me to introduce our special panelists. You do not mind, could we have you introduce yourselves by stating your name, designation, and what's keeping you busy these days? Dharmesh, can we start with you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hello. Thank you for being on this chat.
Pleasure is absolutely mine. I'm from India, from the city Mumbai, and I would like to say that I have loved my journey of last 30 years in the hospitality industry. I've set up close to 112 restaurants and a hotel. I worked in various organizations here, and I've also run a restaurant in London for 2 years. And currently, I have my own restaurant. And my pet project, which I've been playing around with for the last 4 or 5 years, has been on sustainability. So I enjoy the entire circular economy that the hotel industry can genuinely contribute to. And yes, I love food. I love to eat.
That's amazing. That you have such a rich experience. I'm sure you have a lot to contribute today. Next on our panel, let us have Mr. Davy Wee. Davy, could we have you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Davy Wee. I started as an accountant actually in Ernst & Young, but I spent 22 years in McDonald's, Singapore, moving from various departments, from finance to IT to human resource to training to supply chain to operation and then to marketing as well. Then I went regional. From the fast food, I went to POSB, part of DBS Bank, to run the POSB franchise before moving on to help a Malaysian group, Revenue Valley, to run the Manhattan Fish Market globally, while helping the group to support them in Tony Roma's, Popeye's, New York Steak Shack. In the last 7 year plus, with the local groups, the Seoul Garden Group in Singapore, helping them expand regionally with their 3 brands. Thank you for having me.
Next, we have with us Mr. Ivan Liu, who will also share with us his experience in the F&B sector. Ivan?
Hi, folks. My name is Ivan Liu. I'm the founder of iSteaks, a local steakhouse chain. I started about 20 years ago, hocketing it as a street vendor, and subsequently scaled up to where we are today. And come from school of hard knocks. I guess I'm one of the least experienced here among the panelists of experts. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. You know, I've worked with you for so many years, and I've always admired your tenacity in making sure that, you know, all your outlets and all your people grow sustainably, and each of them are looked after so well. And so that's why I thought you would have a lot of wisdom to share with, you know, the audience that are in our chat. Last but not least is my good friend, Mr. Ardan Peddell. Ardan, can I have you share a little bit of your vast and varied experience, please?
Hi, of course. I've been in entertainment and F&B for a very long time, starting after university, building nightclubs all over the world. Eventually ended up in Singapore over 35 years ago. And we started our first F&B outlet, number 5, Emerald Hill, 32 years ago. Since then, opened up many more, all of them different concepts. Majority of which are still open. So the main ones in Emerald Hill are still open after more than 30 years. So still doing well, which is quite good. Thank you.
We've always loved your ice cold beer and your number 5 and your K pastas. I have many fond memories there. So once again, welcome to everyone here who has joined. Today, we have a couple of areas we want to cover, but as this is a big topic, we will only cover what we can, and let's focus on keeping today's session open, wise, and fun. Okay, so my first question is menu engineering. Do you guys think it's an art or science? Should I just call out who should reply first? Should we start with Ivan? You? What do you think?
Sure.
Is it art or science?
No, I really don't know whether you call it art or science, but it has to go along with like track of emotion kind of thing. I feel that the menu has to be something that people got to like it emotionally, right? Whether it's the item of preference, the protein that you like, or the vegetable you like, it have to have that connection first, right? Then next comes the price point. Again, it's an emotional thing. I think it's about whether you can find it acceptable or not, whether it's expensive or whether it's cheap. So a lot of this, I feel, it's all attached to that element, the emotion part.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like you're a very emotional person. Davy, what do you think on this topic?
I would say probably it's both an art and a science. Menu engineering, in essence, is really about checking what are the items that are popular, what are the items that contribute more to the profit, right? And if you go just one step before that, it is really about customer satisfaction, the customer target that you have in mind. So menu engineering just help you do a subset of this focus. So it's both an art as well as a science for me.
Dharmesh, do you have one extreme or the other, or?
Oh, I feel it's super important because it helps you to make money, as simple as that. If your focus is all about profits and how to keep getting that higher and higher, inching up, get into menu engineering, do those small tweaks with your plow houses and puzzles and see how you can move them into the category of stars. And you started making even more money. So it keeps telling you, I think it's an important feedback from the restaurant, as in the business and where it is faring, and it helps you in a great way. Even a small little percentage, if you tweak it, I've seen that profits really start flying high.
So it's a science?
Yes, definitely it's a science, it's an art, and I think it's got a lot to do with being shrewd. I've seen some restaurateurs are so smart that they've tried everything, it didn't work, and then they just changed the name of the dish. And by just changing the name of the dish, it starts flying. So I think it's got to do a lot with how shrewd you are as a businessman or how smart you are as a businessman also.
Now I come to the guy who is not only an F&B expert but has technology to back his answer up. Ardan, what do you think? Art or science?
Well, I agree with Davy. It's definitely both. Okay, but I think compared to Dharmesh, I come from a different point of view, primarily because all of the outlets that we built over the years, we've never started from the point of making money. Yes, it's nice to make money, but we never started the ideas about making money. It was primarily about opening something that we believed in. It would be fun, and we knew people would like it. That was the main thing. Making money in the end, yes, it comes along and you're happy with that. So when we do menu engineering, the primary focus is on what we can present to the customer that they might like. So yes, it's making sure that there are things on the menu, whether it's a drinks menu or food menu, that are going to interest people to buy. And on the back end, you obviously have the probably more scientific side of things, where you start to look at what the cost of goods sold is, and what's working on the menu, what you can push around. Eventually, then, as a business is more established, that's when I think we've started to do a little bit more on the financial side, where you then start getting into the tweaking of what's going to make more money, what can we sell better. But you always have the combination of on one hand is customer favorites that don't necessarily make very much money, and then ones that make a lot of money but don't sell very well, which is part of what we're discussing. So it's a very fine line between the two things, I think.
But from
Xian,
what I
maybe,
can hear, sorry.
Xian, maybe allow me to just add a bit of comment as well. Menu engineering, why it is both art and science, is because by itself, you will not be able to make a good decision. It's just one tool, right? You got to really look at it from a total picture point of view. So let me give you a couple of examples. For example, you can keep increasing your price because it's popular and it's profitable, right? Or you can do the other way around, where it is very popular and yet it's not making enough profit, so you can raise the price. So you also have to bear in mind that the surrounding, your competitors, where are they heading? And if you think that you can price it more than somebody else because you have something unique, so there's some art to it, right? And just because when your profit margin is a little bit lower, it's popular but not so profitable, doesn't mean that you cannot do something about it. So that's why it's both an art and a science.
Well, it does definitely seem like there's the art where there's some more romanticism in it. There's some emotion driven behind, and also it's designing the menu that is a bit more customer centric, and maybe we have to think a little bit like the customer, and then maybe optimize the menu after we've got the customers, so that it will captivate both the customers and then also make profits. I guess in the end, it's like I would say you think like a customer-driven data scientist. So maybe if we could do that, then it's a little bit of art and a little bit of science. So next question. I think I'll just start with a little bit of a preamble. So I read that research shows that, I'm just going to read here, that 56% of customers can be influenced by the menu board, and about 74% say that an easy to read menu board is their top priority. And this is from the view of a business owner. So the CEO of one of the QSR chains told us that menu board optimization is one of the best investments my company can make. It far exceeds almost any other strategy I have pursued to increase profits. So I know that all of you have been running multiple brands. So I was wondering if you agree with such a statement. And, when you want to approach menu engineering, what kind of mindset do you think the business owner should adopt when designing a menu? And for that matter, what sort of mindset have you adopted when you were designing or be in charge of designing a menu for your customers? Does anybody want to take this question first?
Yeah, so
Dharmesh,
I'll, I'll
thank you.
I'll take a go on this. So I partially agree with Arden what he just said, that initially it's not about how we're going to make money. So what I've realized is, first you need to let go. You need to let go completely, uh, and leave the table completely open for the creative people. And when I say creative people, I mean the interior guy, I mean the chef, and they just go out making sure that the customer is going to be happy with the whole touch and feel and the music and the crockery and the cutlery. So then you've kind of arrived at the menu. But I think since there is a science available, you need to pass that on to the so-called menu scientists or the menu engineers. they will tell you where should the dish be placed on the menu card itself. Should it be on the right hand side? Should it be lower? And they also will give you the advice on what to price it, because there is of course something known as the brand persona when you're creating that brand, and that's when you need to give a lot of freedom. And that's why I agree with Ardan when he said that it comes afterwards. But after you've created the soul, if I have to say, of the restaurant and the brand, you also need to use this science which is available to all of us. And it doesn't take much of a time. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of time to kind of do the entire exercise, but the results are phenomenal in the long run, because it helps you on a day-to-day basis, and you keep getting that $1 or whatever currency you are from. It keeps getting that, inching your way up to the profitability. And that is very critical when you are sitting with uh, your accountant who's telling you at the end of the month, hey, listen, you made a lot of money because you took the right decision in so and so aspect and the way you've designed your menu. So yeah, it's in phases, and it definitely helps you a lot more in the QSR segment, because there the menu is primarily a single page or a two pager. So placing the menu item really helps than in a booklet which you have in a fine dine or a fancier restaurant. So yes, it's like in kind of phases, and that's how it really helps to make it more profitable.
Thank you, Dharmesh. Davy, you have been involved with so many different types of restaurants. Perhaps you could also bring some insight into this.
Yeah, actually, the phrase that you mentioned appears to be very QSR, fast food, and it just helped me recall my days with McDonald's. And there is a menu board, but not all F&B or nightlife have a menu board. So the principle is still the same. Maybe I just go one step back a little bit. I noticed that many F&B today, because of digital, has lost the sight of a menu board or a printed menu. And because of that, I think they lost a little bit of opportunity. But if you look at the menu board, in order for you to design your menu board, it always goes back to your brand. And what are the USP of your brand? And why do you create a brand to make your customer happy, right? So if you know where your signature items are, where you know your profit generators are, popular products are, I think that will help you create the menu board or the menu design. The digital part, I think there is a little bit of shortfall because there's not really a possibility of making big photograph. The font size is about the same, and there's a disadvantage. So I find for myself, running F&B, I believe in both. You need to have both a menu board or a printed menu coupled with a digital device. So that's my
Yeah,
view.
I agree. Recently, I went to some self-serve restaurants. I do think that some time is lost trying to navigate all the different interfaces of different menus in different restaurants. And then sometimes you actually end up accidentally losing sales to otherwise popular items because people didn't even get there. I think next on my list, it would be Ardan. Ardan, I know you've been running Coast over at Sentosa. And for the longest time, during COVID, you were offering a digital menu. But recently, you've been engaged in a physical menu again. Maybe you would like to share a little bit about why you decided to go back to it, and was there any difference in terms of impact to your sales?
Well, it's very interesting you brought up, Davey, you brought up the thing about the menu board. Before COVID, we always had a huge menu board above the kitchen because we're self-ordering. So customers would come from the beach. It's a very big space. So we don't do table service or table ordering. So we tried an e-menu before COVID. We gave up on it for a short while. COVID happened. And then when after COVID, we went for an e-menu just because it was the easiest way to deal with things, the quickest way to deal with it. But then about probably a year ago, I started realizing that we don't need to use it. I don't like it because I find it very impersonal. It's useful in a situation where you don't have enough staff for such a big space. So we've gone for a kind of a hybrid. So we have a big menu board, which is we're actually transiting to TVs, basically, same kind of thing. So you can put big photographs up, you can give people pictures of what they're going to eat and special offers. And that's always good because when they're standing in the queue to place or to actually pay for their order, they might add something on. So again, it's part of upselling. But I also made the decision about 3 or 4 months ago to go back to having a physical menu, which we put on the tables, because I realized that it's a combination of some people don't like the e-menu, some do, but you realize that it's a lot more difficult to give them an overview of what you sell on an e-menu because you have to scroll through things, and I hate that. The physical menu is great because you can look at one side of the page or the other side of the page, or you can pick up the drinks menu and look at two sides. That's where the real menu engineering comes in, because I think menu engineering has two sides. One is the back end side where you're engineering what you're going to put on the menu, okay, which comes from the scientific side. We have what makes the most money, etc., etc. What dishes do I want to make in the kitchen? On the front side, it's I've decided what I want to sell. So where do I put it on the menu so it's going to be in people's faces or make them choose something more than something else? So that's where the real menu engineering design comes in, I think, where you decide, is something going to be in bold? Is it going to be in red? Is it going to be in green, or whatever it is, to make people choose it more than something else? So we decided to go back to the paper menus so people have a quick overview, but they will still go onto the e-menu because it's quicker for them to order. So they'll go onto the e-menu, put things into a cart as they're discussing in a family, for instance. So they all have a look at the menu. I'll put this on, put that on. Then one person just goes up to the cashier and tells them which table, and the cashier then checks their items and collects the payment. So it's all pretty quick. So for us being a beach cafe kind of thing, so we want people to stay at the table. We don't want to have to spend long hours waiting in queues. It's a very easy way for us to deal with the holistic view of menus and choosing food, I think.
Very interesting. So Ivan, which camp do you believe in? The digital or the physical or hybrid?
You know, the thing is that I've gone through a journey whereby I started my career in F&B as a McDonald's crew in Liat Tower, if you know where it is.
Oh,
Yeah. During that journey, I've done fast food, quick service, as well as a full service restaurant and all. And when I started my own business, there are a lot of adaptation of all this that I've experienced. I put into the business, and I transited from a billboard size kind of menu to digital menu, and finally I came back to old school. I have a table menu, a printed menu, and as what the experts have said, like, you make sure you put your best selling item, the item that you want to sell, at the most prominent place, and all this as part of the menu planning and engineering. But at the end of the day, whatever we have done, one thing that never fail to ensure that whatever you want to do is the person, the people that is selling the product to the customer. That means the crew that you have, right? So we kind of I kind of felt that this is tradition that has not failed us. We fail ourselves. That's for me. Fail ourselves by trying to be modern, by being in trend and all. So, like when we went digital, as what Ardan said, you don't like the idea. It's quicker, but there is no connection with the customer. They just pick on what they want, and then bam, that's it. nothing else to it. But when you put a person in between that menu and ordering, that change, you change the emotion of the person. The upselling becomes a lot more efficient. So that's where I transited from the trending digital menu, even self-ordering, to back to old school today. So the emphasis is always the part where I felt that the engagement is very crucial. Designing the menu is important, but the engagement will be the most important factor.
Yeah, I think Ivan has a good point on the upselling part. You can't do proper upselling unless you've got somebody standing in front of the customer.
Yeah, totally agree you.
So we can't just put there, people who have ordered this also ordered that, like in the YouTube recommendations or Instagram recommendations.
I don't think anybody believes that. So.
All right. So, the thing about the secret sauce to menu engineering. So I think today, even though we haven't gotten to the main crux of it, we've already covered and gone through some of the main points. And that is, I think, it's a three-pronged approach. I think there is the role of psychology and perception, how people feel about the menu. There's actually the menu design, and as well the part where we increase profitability in terms of food cost management and how you price it and stuff like that. So I think that we've got three major groups of areas of consideration.
Let's take a pause here, and we will continue our discussion in part 2 on the secret sauce of successful restaurant menu engineering. If you have questions for our panelists, please go to scaleupmastery.com and ask away. If you have topics you think others may be interested in, please also let us know.